Okay, guys, we're gonna run through. This is part 2, chapter 2, and this is a really significant chapter. It's one of the longer chapters in the book, and for a very good reason. It centres around Raphael being taken away by the police, and we see the levels of corruption. We see great examples of the power that the police and the authorities hold over the lack of power that the boys hold, and Mulligan does this symbolically through a number of things. So what we'll do is we'll go through it very quickly. A lot of it we've obviously covered in class, but we'll just add. We'll go over some things that we covered in class just for the purpose of the videos, and also if there's anything new that has come up, we'll touch on that too. Alright, so we start with this Raf being arrested, and we see great evidence at the beginning of Raf and Gardo's relationship and the strength of their relationship. Things like, I'm just trying to find the part. Parts like this, I'll just highlight it up here. Gardo got his arm around me, but someone pushed him up. I heard him shouting over the top of everyone else. It indicates his desperation, I suppose, to make sure that Raf knows he's there, and also the anguish and pain that he's going through with his friend being taken away. Again, despite everything that Raf's going and the power of the police hold, Gardo's persistent in his effort to try and stay with him, and then this short phrase at the end of this sentence which says, and then Gardo was gone. It's really indicative of, I suppose, the desperation that Raf feels when Gardo is no longer there. We can see their loyalty to each other and their teamwork and their the strength of their relationship in that part. The part in purple down here is just the arrest of Raphael, so it's quite detailed to that. And then we, as I say, I don't know what's happened in my pages, but they look a bit different. But we can see here again, this is the part I just highlighted with Gardo being desperate to be with Raf, and Raf's desperation to have him with him. A little bit of evidence there. Raphael's really struggling. We get an indication that the fear through his crying, and then obviously we remember that he not only does he cry, but then he wets himself, and then he vomits, and he obviously soils himself, and Mulligan uses those 4 bodily functions, I suppose, to show Raf's fear, his anxiety about this situation, but also his power, his weakness in this, or lack of power in this situation. Comments like, "I never felt so lost and lonely," even though he's in the possession of the police, he still feels very frightened, because these boys know that the police are people that they can't trust. Yeah, so I mean, we'll move on. There's a little touch on there about Jose Angelico, and Raf refers to that a number of times, so that we get that the inspiration that Jose is providing for Raf, but also the idea that this is bigger than them. They're fighting against corruption. This is about justice. This is about doing the right thing. It's not about them individually. It's about all of their people and all of their community. So it's bigger than them. Lots of little references to how frightened he was and how powerless he was. I mentioned this part in class, the nobody looked up part, because as I think a couple of the people said in class today, this is something these people are used to. A young boy being dragged through a police station is nothing new, and they don't care about him. He's a piece of trash. So people don't look up from their work, they keep going about their business. This is just everyday business. This is how deep the corruption is. I mentioned this too, this comment that the police said that this isn't going to end, Raf. We'll just keep hassling you until we kill you or we get the answer that we want. So it's a real threat or a promise to Raf that he knew he better do the thing that they considered to be the right thing. It is interesting, of course, that and I noted this today in class, that he lies the whole way. And lying is something we normally frown upon, but in this situation, particularly lying to the police, but in this situation we see that because of the corruption of the police, then he needs to lie to stay alive, and he does that, and eventually he gets out of there, as we know. References to the boys being thought of as nothing of not of value, when the policeman says who talks trash to read, and there's another one over the next page where over here in the pink where he refers to Raf as a piece of garbage, and Mulligan has done that deliberately to show the power, the difference between these men who think so great of themselves, but also the boys who are so low in this in this sort of society that they live in. Trying to think where the next little bit, what's that say there? Oh, this is, this is talks about his loyalty, and we talked about this in class, that Raf had got to a point that they'd either believe him or they'd kill him. He wasn't going to turn his back on his friends, and that strength of character is something we don't often see. And that strength to Jose Angelico, who the boys had learned a little bit more about by this stage. Here's an example. We talked about this in class, and there's lots of. This is an example of the power that the police have over the boys, both physical power because they're holding him out a window, but also the emotional and social power they have in him because they don't really. If we want to, we'll break every bone in your body. We have a place for this. So this is something these people have done before, and they've obviously got away with it. At the very end, we do see him get away. He's lying. The police finally believe his lies, and he gets away. And references to Jose Angelico, which we can see is a bit of a hero to Raf these days. By now, they've learned a bit more about him when we get to that then. But the joy that he was alive. That he could run forever. That was a feeling that he had. Okay, we might do chapter 3 and chapter 4 here together, all in one video. So chapter 3 talks about Raf after he's left the police station. And references here that he could have been thrown away. So Raf knows his place in society. He knows that he's considered to be trash and that he's low, and that it's a struggle for him to get through. So we also get a little bit more information about Jose Angelico here. We've learned that he died in a police station, more evidence of that corruption. We know that he was arrested down here on suspicion of a major crime, and we find out over the page that he'd been accused of stealing $6 million. And the fact that Jose had died in the police station also is a reason why Raf stuck to his story, because he knew if he'd given the police what they wanted, that he too would have just died in the police station. The last paragraph here really is just sort of placing characters in position so we know who they are. We find out that Jose is the adopted son of a man called Dante Jerome Olondres, who is in turn the son of Gabriel Olondres, which is, as you may remember, the gentleman that's in prison, in Culver prison. And then at the beginning of the next 4, we learn that Jose has a daughter called Pia. Now, Pia's last name is Dante, taken from her father. So we get a little bit of understanding. We also down here learn that the boys are going to have to head to the prison to talk to Gabrielle and see if they can find out the rest of the story. The last little chapter I'll touch on now is just this very short one, which is told from the point of view of Grace, who was a maid who worked for a fellow called Senator Zampartner, who was the vice president of the country. It's he who Jose is accused of stealing the money from. And she puts an interesting spin on it when she describes Jose. And look, I think Milligan's done this to make us question Jose and almost support the boys' views of Jose, that he is someone that they should be looking up to. And she says here that he is kind and gentle and trustworthy and honest. He was quiet, he didn't smoke, that he put his daughter was a high priority, put his daughter before himself, and that he was trustworthy, and he did not seem very brave. So it's unlikely that he's a person that would go out and steal something, but of course that's what he's accused of, and at this stage we assume that's what he was killed for.